So what are we talking about? I have absolutely no idea. Are we talking about gin and juice? Are we talking about everything?
Yeah, but why don't we do a bit of everything if you're all right with that?
Yeah, fine.
Yeah.
Julian, if you want to say, I don't want to talk about anything, which is a quick chat,
Yeah.
Rob says,
I mean, you're going to edit it, aren't you? It's not going to be a free flow, is it?
Yeah, we do free flow.
Oh, is it?
We do, yeah.
Okay, so I'll just get into a relaxed position. We're going to chat for ages.
Yeah.
One of the reasons we put this in today was because it gave you an opportunity to talk about gin and juice. Because it's most people go, I want to hear about Superdry, I want to hear about this. I said to Rob, is it okay that we talk about gin and juice, why you love Cheltenham and all that? Yeah, absolutely, which is a great opportunity. Okay. Going out on Qantas business.
Yes.
It's great.
All right.
Very good. Very good.
A little part-time hobby thing.
Yeah, wonderful.
Legs.
Yeah, how did you fall into that?
Well, because I was just saying, we were talking about before, like, I'm in property and I retired at 27.
Brilliant.
And hated it. And then I started again and then retired at 32 and hated it. And
There's no retirement. Fucking hell. I'll be going when I'm about 95.
Yeah, well, I've come to that way now.
Yeah.
But
embrace it. Make, you know. Entrepreneurialism what are you going to do?
At least you can say you were in a position to, I suppose, or you had the choice. But so I've written a few books, and I wrote a book 3 years ago, and I got quite into the book, and then after I wrote it, I was bored again. So we just started doing this podcast, didn't we?
Yeah, brilliant.
Podcasting's got like quite a big thing now.
Yeah.
Because if you think about radio, you have to sit and wait for 2 hours for your favourite song or who you want to listen to. Go sit through all the ads. Whereas a podcast, you just get your phone, you do that, you listen on demand.
Yeah.
So people can scroll through, they'll see your name. I'd love to listen to that one. Yeah. People listen on 2 times speed now as well. So they'd be fast forwarding your voice. And
that's a boring bit. I don't want to hear about that.
This not going to have a podcast on it, is it?
No, it's a world that patently I'm relying on other people.
I thought you were joking. I used to play Snake on that.
I've never played Snake. No. Everyone says that.
Yeah, I saw it.
Yeah. I must play. I won't say anything I've never done on it.
Yeah. The whole angle is Rob talks to entrepreneurs. So great. I showed you the list of this. You've got some amazing names out there. Like
a few weeks ago, we came here and interviewed Dom Jolly.
Okay. Yeah.
And we were down there.
Of course. Yes.
And he just got really drunk, and we just chatted for ages. And I accidentally spilled water all over him, didn't I? So.
You go to weird towns in Russia. You go to somewhere really grim. It's fucking shit, but there will always be an amazing bar. There'll probably be a great band.
And I'll just check that's your phone.
It's waterproof. X, I can afford it. Look at that, he's trying to do it. Basically, cold fucks you. I don't know what I'm talking about.
No, I don't.
That made me laugh too much. Right, I'm charging you for that.
All right,
it's waterproof.
Yeah. So should we get?
Yeah, just make sure I look all right. Can you look through, or whichever one? And
do you want me to move? Do you want me to put this on the floor? Would that be better? That's all right. Yeah, I hope I won't spill it again.
This is nice. This is a good room.
Yeah.
Okay, good.
Just pull your shirt so you look neat.
We put this on? Yeah, we're kind of great.
Okay.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah, carry on.
Well, Julian, thanks a lot for doing the interview.
Real pleasure.
We are in one of your establishments.
We are, yeah. One that's undergoing a great deal of change at the moment.
Do you want to talk to us about this place?
Yeah, so this is 131, and I think, God, how long have I owned it? Probably about 5 years ago, I think, 4 or 5 years ago. It was a kind of office building, and I love Cheltenham, so I lived just outside Cheltenham. I've lived here for 30 years. Absolutely love it. Cheltenham's been very good to me, and there was this property here, and I had a couple of pubs by then, and sort of hotel-y pubs. And this was a vacant office building that was, I think it was empty for 10 years or something like that.
Right.
And so I thought I'd give it some love and turn it into something that Cheltenham would be proud of.
Yeah.
And now, a few years later, we are trebling the size of it in the next. So we're sort of doubling the size of it on Saturday. And trebling the size of it by November the 1st. So as soon as they finish there, they're moving next door.
Yeah.
So it's a series of 3 beautiful Regency buildings in the centre of Cheltenham, and really quite special. You know, I think it's quite unique in in the hotel world. to have something like this outside of London. You know, you'd expect it more kind of New York or London or something like that. And so, you know, it's a pleasure to bring something so beautiful back to life and you know, make it work.
Yeah. And what's the concept of because it seems to be sort of quite bar, it's always mini hotel, very cozy feel.
So it's kind of relaxed. You know, there are the old school hotels, the great classics, but then there's a new wave of hotels which probably started really in New York and then sort of came over here, and they're, you know, as upmarket as they need to be. So they're still brilliant quality, but they're just more relaxed, and that, you know, that they have probably more vibrant bar life, and the food is sort of less formal, still brilliant, but slightly less formal. So you know,
we've just ordered your La Chateaubriand.
Oh, good.
Coming at 6:30. So we're quite excited about that.
Yeah, you should enjoy that.
Yeah.
So it'll probably be 40-day aged, beautiful beef that's, you know, sat around the corner.
Lovely.
Yeah. So I've got into this industry and I enjoy it. It's a bit like retail. So I'm a retailer by nature. So it's dealing with the public. It's understanding physical space. It's aesthetically important that to be exciting as you go around the corner. You've got to be aesthetically sort of enthused that you're there, and you know, life should be a joy, really. And so I like doing sort of positive, creative things.
Yeah. And how is this specific niche of business different to retail? Of course, there's many similarities, but how's it different?
It's very similar in that, you know, I mean, obviously it's a different product, but essentially you are delivering to, it's not an exclusive demographic, so it's quite broad, accessible. It's quite an accessible concept. So whether you're just drinking at the bar or you're staying in a hotel or whatever, it's not so expensive that you can't, but it's premium, but it's not ridiculously expensive. So it's quite democratic, if you like, and then like I say, it's about space. It's about how you feel. So if you walk into a store, you know, I'm quite proud of the fact that you walked into a Superdry store, and you know, they would be exciting everywhere. You know, it was worked on a premise that, you know, you go around the corner and it would be visually exciting. So everywhere you go, be visually different, and that was very important on that retail journey.
Yeah. So that's as important as the product itself, is it?
Well, you've got to be excited by the product. You know, you've got to enjoy getting to the product, and of course, the product then has to go on a journey on itself, and then you take it away, and then it has to deliver. So don't think the food here isn't brilliant, because it is brilliant, and you know, everything we do, we try and be the best that is humanly possible. So, and you're taking your ideas from around the world, and you know, making sure that you are as good as you can be, and better than anybody else around you, for sure.
Yeah,
I mean, that's very important. That you've got to be the best in your environment. That is for sure.
And how do you manage being the best with obviously the costs that must come associated with converting Regency buildings, and how do you balance that trade-off between premium and price, I suppose?
Very busy bars.
Yeah.
And you'll see that tonight. You know, we're opening Gin and Juice Bar tonight, which is a sort of collaboration.
I almost want to start drinking again. I haven't drunk for like 10 years.
Oh, really? That's terrible. No, alcohol is one of the great loves of...
Oh, is it?
Yeah, you know, you've got to enjoy a good drink.
Yeah.
But you know, you'll see it'll be a very busy environment, you know, and that's important.
Yeah.
Not stuffy, not formalised. It's kind of relaxed and busy.
Were you someone that's driven by numbers, or are you someone that's driven by how your products, services make people feel?
It's both. So you have to deliver the best product humanly possible, but equally, if you don't understand your numbers, you're not going to get very far. So, you know, in my long retail history, because I started when I was 19, and you can probably work out how old I am. You know, it's been a long journey of you know, what I've done, and every year for that length, I have increased sales and increased profitability. On a consistent basis over, you know, whatever fashion's in fashion and whatever's you've got to understand numbers.
And how have you managed to maintain that in a space like retail, or when you were in retail, which was just seems to be, the high street just seems to be getting harder and harder to do that?
Look, you've just got to follow the consumer. If we take the rag trade, clothing business, the same amount of clothes are being bought. They might be moving channels, right, but the same amount of clothes are being bought, and either you're part of that journey with the consumer or you're not. So you have to keep your eye on where they are going. And I think people become, particularly in the fashion world, they get a bit caught in a moment in time. So if you think of the length of time I've been in it, gone through the goth period, gone through the second-hand Levi period, all those sort of different stages, the rave deal, and people get caught in a particular moment and they think they've cracked the secret formula of making money. And they have for a moment in time. Yeah. But what they forget is the customer is going to keep moving, and you've got to keep moving with them, and that's the most important thing of all. Yeah. So it's not about you. You've got to put yourself in somebody else's shoes on a constant basis. Yeah.
So you're more about creating products that people want rather than designs and products that you come from you.
It's a combination of the two. So I love wearing our products. Historically, I've always worn our products, but equally, you've got to understand the process of thought of what the consumer is going through. They're touching something. How does it feel when you put it on? How do you feel in it? Is it brilliant? Is it as good a quality? Is it tailored as it should be? It's very easy to make clothes, but can you really make good clothes? And can they be the best in their group? I think that's what we've done consistently over a long period of time. Just kept getting better and better and better in with the products that we're making.
And how, when you get as big and as successful as you and your brand, do you stay in touch with what people want? Because I can imagine it's quite easy to be a bit up there in the clouds. How do you stay connected to your consumers?
Well, the thing is not to get caught in the clouds and stay grounded, and always remember that you're here to serve. You're here to serve. And the moment you forget that, you give up, because this isn't the industry for you. I think if you become self-indulgent, or you start thinking in isolation, you're going to get it wrong. Yeah. And publicly, I'm in a battle at the moment with I'm trying to go back into Superdry as we speak. And
what makes you want to go back in?
The reality is they've made strategic decisions that have been completely wrong, and they've been non-consumer-led decisions. They've been very self-indulgent decisions. Right. They've made decisions isolated in an office that all sound good on paper, but the reality is, if you follow what then happens to the consumer experience, it's a deflated one compared to what historically we've done, which is really always thinking about the consumer and the retail environment and the product, and then making the back of house really be subservient to that. And I think what they've unfortunately done is focused on trying to save money, being efficient, doing all those things that are over here and nothing to do with the consumer. Right. And it's the wrong way to go about a consumer-led business. Yeah.
And how long have you been out?
A year.
Oh, so not too long.
No. Plenty of life left of me to go and sort it out.
So whatever plans you had to be out didn't last very long.
Well, I left because of a strategic difference in opinion. Yeah. And I couldn't put my name to what I knew would go wrong, and I've been proved to be right. Which is kind of sad, but it's there for I will go back and I will sort it out. Yeah.
How do you stay? Like, I know I said, I think you used the word self-indulgent, but how do you actually work out what the consumers want? Because that's got to be a bit of the magic sauce, hasn't it?
Yeah, look,
is it talking to them? Is it focus groups?
No, none of that. No, it's
sorry for showing my ignorance.
No, you've got to be well travelled, and you've got to watch and listen and watch, and so there's a lot of observation, and and understand your industry. I mean, you've got to understand it completely. You've got to understand what everyone else is doing in your industry.
Yeah.
To know, then you know, oh, well, that style of product is selling at the moment because they're doing really well with it. And and then you kind of work out, all right, there's a shift. It's, maybe long coats are becoming short or whatever.
Yeah.
They're all buying orange this season or whatever it is. And you get to understand it. You just keep watching. Actually, it's a very sensible, logical industry. People get too excited about it and think it's a dark art. It's not. The fashion that you read about in the papers, look, it's not real fashion. When you sort of flick the glossies or see the catwalks, that's not the reality. The reality is the public, on the street, and what are they doing? That's what the industry is really about.
Yeah.
So you've got to know what they're wearing in Tokyo. You've got to know what they're wearing in Korea. You've got to know what they're wearing in New York. You've got to know those things. That can't be a surprise to you.
Yeah. And if I might...
that's travelling.
If I might be so bold as to say,
yeah.
How do you find that out quickly when you have a really old phone like that? How did you get that? I'm sorry.
Can we get a close-up on the phone? You can have a close-up. There it is. It's a thing of beauty. I'll tell you what, this is very, very important, actually, because what this does is allow your brain to be pure. So I'm able to think in a way that people have sort of lost the art of not contemplation, but kind of watching.
Yeah.
They're so in the moment of responding. Yes. They've forgotten the art of thinking. And actually, it's been an advantage to not. I mean, it's not like I don't understand it.
Yeah.
I mean, Superdry has probably been one of the fastest growing and biggest percentages of internet participation in the industry. But that's through watching it, not through participating in it.
Yeah. I write a lot of books, and I always used to think that ideas and creativity, came from inside your brain. And I remember one of my mentors, he said to me, it's the other way around. You get the ideas when you empty your brain. That's why you get them in the shower. That's why you get them in the car, because your conscious faculties have been removed.
Yes.
Because I always used to think it was very serendipitous. You get the ideas in the shower, in the car, on the walk. But then you look at all the great sages, designers. They get their ideas in the bath, in the shower, in the car, and on a walk. Yeah. So I know I was a bit flippant, but I figured there would be something behind that.
I think I drive people mad because I'll be sat in a car journey and I'll probably be very quiet and they go, what's he thinking or whatever, and I'm just off calculating the next move or how the market's moving or what's happening. So yes, those moments of peace and they're important.
And must feel great not to be interrupted every 17 milliseconds.
Yeah, and responding to things that are probably irrelevant.
Yes.
And irrational. And actually, I still get emails, but I print them off.
Yeah.
And I deal with them as and when I feel I've got the time to deal with them properly. And then I get somebody else to do it for me.
Yeah, of course.
I mean, that helps. That does help. I've got to be honest. I've always had somebody to help me.
Yeah. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised. I suppose, like fashion goes through cycles. Yeah. There's a lot of people fighting for getting off your phone, charging it by the bed, having this downtime. I mean, with my kids, they're 4 and 8. They're on that iPad a bit too long, and they're just instantly addicted to it. And it is a bit of a slippery slope.
Yeah, and it's hard to manage that.
Yeah.
And that next generation, of course, is different. No, we're as parents, as I'm, very much got to be overseeing that and watching that for sure, and making sure that you do things that they're not involved at all.
How did you get into retail in the first place?
Do you know what? Reality
so you said 19?
I didn't know what else to do. I was in Herefordshire at that point, and I went travelling. I left school with 3 very bad grades, A-level grades, Thought
Seems
I was going
to be a prerequisite for a successful entrepreneur, doesn't it?
I think it is. The panic of, I've got to sort this out now.
Yeah.
So I left with 3 E's, which are passes. But in physics, chemistry, it was physics, chemistry and biology. It was the worst 2 years of my life. And realised I wasn't going to be a doctor. Well, I knew that kind of one day into the course. I didn't dare change. But I went travelling, or earned some money in just did crap jobs and then earned money and then travelled for about 5-6 months. And in that period, had a time to sort of contemplate what I could do. And I'd done a few little entrepreneurial things in my past. And the reality, I saw this. I was in Turkey and I saw this market, and the bazaar in Istanbul, and I got very excited by it and that kind of retail commerce. And there was a lot of clothing being sold there, and I was brought up. I'm a Londoner, and I left London when I was sort of 14 or 15. But I always had worn clothes that. In those days, it was Kensington Market or Robot or those great places to go shopping, and people in Herefordshire didn't have them. So I was like a classic immigrant kind of deal, where you're sort of in a place that you're not from, and you realise there's a gap, and you bring that gap to fill it, and I did, and I just found I was good at it at 19. I knew what the public wanted, and I was never the coolest. I was probably the second coolest. So I had a commercial. I always made sure that it was safe before I jumped in with my Winkle Biggers or my brothel creepers or whatever it was, and actually as a retailer, that's a good place to be, because you could be
a bit less risky, I suppose.
Well, you could be at the front, but you're not at the pinnacle, which is probably happening in Tokyo or somewhere else. But wherever I am, I sort of am at the pinnacle. Yeah. But the reality is, of course, you're watching other things happening at all times, and the principle of taking something and bringing it, So if you're in Monmouth and there isn't a pizza restaurant, well, probably it's a good idea to open a pizza restaurant, if you know what I mean. It's a pretty sensible, logical thing to do, to watch what's happening, see what's successful, see what works, work out what you're going to enjoy doing, and then something you're passionate about, and then bring it to wherever the gap is. Basic principle of commerce and trade, and it'll never change, and that's always the best way. The chances of inventing something are pretty slim. The chances of bringing something to somewhere where it isn't are quite high and quite attainable for any budding entrepreneur.
Well, Simon Woodruff did that with Yo Sushi, didn't he? Straight over there and brought it at the right time.
Absolutely. Totally that.
Sam Walton went into all of his stores, all the competitor stores, to keep improving Walmart.
Correct. And you just got to keep watching, keep getting better, keep thinking about the consumer. But if you live in, like I say, somewhere, wherever, Monmouth or wherever, and there aren't these gaps, it might be, food is an obvious one at the moment. Then that's what you would do.
And when did you have your first shop?
19.
19.
Yeah. 30 quid a week rent.
Right.
I started on what was called the Enterprise Allowance Scheme, which was a £40 a week grant, which was when you said, so you had to go on the dole to get it. Yeah. So you went on the dole for 13 weeks or 9 weeks or whatever it was, and then you'd come off and go, right, I qualify now for my 40 quid a week. And actually it was brilliant. Yeah. It was the regimented sort of, regularity of it meant I lived off the 40 quid a week, and I reinvested every penny I made. So I borrowed £2,000, I paid it back within 6 months.
Right.
And I think I made probably, students in those days got grants, and I think, so an average student would probably get about £2,000, and I think at the age of 19 I made the equivalent of £16,000.
Wow.
Which, It was good.
Yeah.
From a standing start.
How did you not get overexcited and just go spend all that?
No, I was always terrified I would lose it. So I've always had a principle of never spending more than about 10% of what I earn. So
What, out of fear of losing it?
Yeah, I mean, if you haven't got anything to fall back on,
and
I had nothing to fall back on, I had to be good at it. So I honed my skill, and I loved it. I mean, to find what you're good at 19, I mean, that is just unbelievable.
Yeah.
I mean, it sounds like if you retired at 27 or whatever it was, you probably did the same thing.
I found it at 25, and I got a bit lucky in the rising market, and then I got a bit unlucky in the falling market, and we all have our ups and downs. But yeah, I mean, what would you say to someone who's watching or listening and is still searching for what they love? But they weren't 19, they weren't 25, they're 35 or 45 or 55.
Well, I mean, to be honest, you've got to be very conscious of, you might have a family by then or whatever. I mean, the great thing of doing it when you're very young is you've got no responsibilities to anybody. So that's all.
Really.
But in essence, it is hugely doable if you enjoy it. It's not as complicated as one imagines, and you do have to sort of put yourself 100% into it and live and breathe it and think about other people before yourself. But if you've got that within you, I think if you're quite an altruistic person, then I think it's quite likely you'll succeed. If you find something that nobody is doing, or you can be better, and you can see you can obviously be better, you will probably succeed.
So you just keep looking. You just keep looking for what you love.
Yeah, and look for those gaps.
Yeah.
But like I say, it's not about, people think to get rich or to whatever, you have to invent something or come up with some genius idea.
That might be the quick way to go poor.
And actually, there's a lot more risk.
Yeah, Dyson nearly went bust, didn't he? He was so close. Millions and millions and millions in person.
Yeah.
And that's totally, the success story.
Yeah. Unfortunately, he's a Brexiteer. Which is another story.
Make him a bad person.
No, brilliant. Do you know what? I totally admired his journey, and it's a great sadness actually that he's now shipping his head office elsewhere, and to say vote out and then physically move your tax domicile out of the country. I think it's not the right. I'm quite passionate about Remain and the country and what it means.
My business partner is
and what it means for the country. And I think in life, if you're positive and doing things in a collaborative way. So I've always had a lot of partnerships. People are sometimes frightened of partnerships. We should look at Europe as a partnership. And actually embrace the opportunities that it offers, rather than sort of shrinking back into some rather negative. But it's very much positive or negative. The Brexit camp is a very negative thought process, and actually will not do this country any favours for many years to come. So I'm very optimistic that we will actually not have a hard Brexit, or probably not even a Brexit at all. But anyway, I digressed away from entrepreneurialism. I'm very passionate. It's very of the moment. The Superdry is of the moment, and Brexit of the moment. But I suppose I'm quite a passionate human being, really. I kind of,
you've got to be positive with partnerships. I mean, you've got to have suppliers. You've got to have exporters.
It's all about partnerships. Yeah.
And how do you maintain really good partnerships? And just before you answer that, because this is quite serendipitous in a way, but the person I interviewed before you was Jackie Stewart, who's like a lovely human being.
Right,
I felt
the racing driver.
And I felt really privileged to spend the time with him. And he's had a 50-year partnership with Rolex. He could only say good things. He said, if I'm going into a partnership, I'm going in it for the long term. And I said, well, what about when other people who get the checks waived or no, if I'm in a partnership, I'm in it for the long haul. And he said like 3 partners that he's had for 50 years. And I've been with my business partner now 13 years, because I only started in business 13 years ago, and I feel fiercely loyal to him, and I would want to be in partnership with him till I'm 80 or 90.
Correct. That's a wonderful thing to have with another human being, Totally, and it's all about this human relationship. So I'm the same with my Superdry business partner. I'm the same with my gin and juice partner. I'm the same with my cider partner. I've got partnerships, and occasionally they don't work.
Of course.
But on a whole, what a wonderful thing to do, to actually share something and grow something together. And as long as you've got sort of opposite skills, it's a brilliant thing.
And how do you manage partnerships over the long term? Because obviously we're going to have clashes, and we're all different people.
Like I say, it's about thinking about other people, isn't it? And if you can admire their skills and what they, and you both come at it with a vision of trying to create something. There has to be something creative within that process, I think. If it's just purely money, it probably might not work so well. But actually, if you're doing something that you're trying to create the best cider on the planet, or create the best hotel group, or whatever it is, or best clothing company. So James and I have prior to Superdry, we did Soho Coffee Company together.
It's like a shared mission.
Yeah, of creating something great. And that's gone. I mean, we sold it a long time ago, but that's gone on. It's all over London now.
Yeah. I found with my business partner, it's funny because he's really different to me. At the time, we had no idea that was a good thing.
Yeah.
And I, to be honest, we didn't really know we were different, because that was when we used to drink, and we thought we were the same because we all were both single and going out drinking. And as soon as we realised we were very different, it was like, oh, this is weird. Yeah. And we had a bit of a clash for a while, and I think that it really flourished for me when, instead of me trying to change him to be more like me, which is what human beings I think tend to do, this is my opinion, that's my opinion, we've got to do it like this, started appreciating him for who he was and his skills. And
and that's exactly it. That's exactly it, is that appreciation, that respect, that to human, it's a lot for one human being to create something on their own. So to have that collaboration so I mean, James and I have never tried to beat each other or tried to compete with each other. I think he's the best designer in the world, and I've never met anybody who works so hard and so intuitively and so brilliantly as him. So I feel honoured to actually be able to work with him. I mean, it's a brilliant. What a lucky find for me. I mean,
get a good gig.
But there are a few. So we're opening a gin bar tonight. Again, gone into partnership with a couple. Well, in fact, there's 4 of us involved now. But it was a couple who started it, and Steve, who I've known for 25 years or something. So there's an absolute trust and understanding. He used to supply me clothes, and actually, it's an evolution. His part of the industry was tough in the clothing world, so he then shifted into first of all coffee, which we got involved in, and now it's gin. He's brilliant at it. They are brilliant at it. So it's that wonderful thing of knowing somebody, of trusting them, of enjoying working with them. How wonderful is that? And actually, if you find somebody, you can start something together. You don't know if you have that kind of relationship. Great way to start something together, rather than trying to do it in an isolated way, which is quite a lonely space, I would imagine.
Yeah, I think I speak to a lot of entrepreneurs, and they have this vision when they work for themselves, they're going to have freedom, autonomy, choice, and then they realise they're sitting in their bedroom all day, no one keeping them accountable, lonely, and so if you can have a partner and collaborations, then you get over that.
And bouncing ideas is wonderful.
I mean, I like people. Many people perceive that I'm pretty good with ideas. I used to be an artist. I'm quite into sort of creative stuff. I'm not good at ideas at all. I'm good at engaging with people and coming up with a shared idea, because I have the seed. They, put some fertilizer on it. They butcher my idea, but actually it's better. Is fashion a bit like that, or is it just an inspired genius?
No, totally collaboratively. So I mean, from the inception of Superdry, James and I have worked. I will probably have a sort of a commercial view of the world, and understand the scale of a market or whatever, or how to conquer a market. And then we'll go, right, okay, we need this sort of product, and it needs to hit that kind of demographic and be. And,
so you're giving him a lot of specifics to work with by the time.
Yeah, but I can't do anything that he does.
Yeah.
You know, he from his head then translates what I'm thinking, and then of course, I mean, but the biggest selling product I had nothing to do with whatsoever. So you know, I've got to be realistic. You know, I might be good at a washed out polo or something, but he created the wind cheater, which I think has sold, I don't know, 4 million garments or something like that. You know, and who would have thought a 3-zip jacket would conquer the world like that and really defy it? You know, it's probably one of the most defining, if not the most defining, Superdry product.
Yeah.
And you know, goodness knows how he came up with that. So yeah, but it, you know, the two of us just seem to work incredibly well together. And bouncing off ideas and seeing opportunities, and
Great. So I've got some questions from our listeners. We love to get them involved. This one's from Vix Munro, and she asks, what's the connection so much with the Japanese styling?
Do you know what? Japan, for anybody who's been, is incredibly cool in terms of sort of streetwear and street culture. And we went over there thinking, okay, we're gonna find some exciting ideas. What we did was find that the packaging was more exciting than anything else. So actually, the letter styles and the whole, you know, the signages, was really exciting, and probably more defined as a sort of artistic endeavour than any other packaging in the world. So you kind of go, okay, well, this is James again, not me. How do I incorporate that within clothing? And so I came up with the name Superdry.
And how did you come up with
that? And he
that?
came up with the...
Because it's very different when it all came out. I remember when it came out.
Yeah.
Just thought... I almost thought like it was an import from Japan. It was very different.
Look, the world thinks it's Japanese, and it's great. You know, I mean, it
makes it unique.
It makes it unique.
Yeah. So how did you come up with Superdry? Where did that come from?
It was just a random word.
Yeah.
We were just trying to think of it, and you know, these things log in your mind from years before, and you don't know why they log in your mind, and then they sort of pop out.
And were you more utility clothing in the early days, and then you became fashion? Because a lot are like that, aren't they?
No. But you know, I don't know if you know the history, but I mean, I built up a business called Cult.
Yes, I used to buy my clothes from there in Cambridge.
Thank you.
Thank you. When I was with my first girlfriend, we used to go in there.
And what I did, I was completely different to all other retailers, in that I would go out and buy products.
Yeah.
So I would look at 1 million garments and then buy one, but I'd buy a lot of them, and I would buy them across colours, and so I'd make it a very curated range of products that probably, as a combination, nobody else in the country had considered putting together in any way. And I used to travel far afield, you know, New York or wherever to go.
You like travelling, do you?
Yeah, absolutely. And you know, for ideas.
Yeah.
And so I had a different take on the world in terms of how it should be, and I kind of knew how Superdry should fit into that model. So we very much targeted specific products and then conquered them and made them the best in the world. So rather than the fashion industry, which is like a constant process of just making stuff, nice things, you would go, right, I'm going to make the best t-shirt in the world with the best graphic. I'm going to make the best polo in the world with the best stripes, the best wash, the best fabric, the best everything, best collar shape, the best. And so you end up with a perfect product. Now, when you have a perfect product, that changes the whole sort of thought process, and sets you apart from everybody else who's out there.
Yeah.
So if you think of the great brands like Burberry, what do you think of? You think of a Mac.
Yeah.
Well, that Mac has been around for 50 years. If you think of Converse, you think of All Stars. You know, it's a single product that's kept them going for 50 years.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. So what Superdry is a series of products rather than the traditional fashion route. And it's incredibly important to think like that to build a business. And you know, we really have done something that hasn't been done, you know, to build a £1 billion pretty much turnover company in 15 years from scratch. You know, I'm not sure it's been done that many times. So obviously there was some, and we did it completely differently.
How did you do that?
Well, by building up a series of products. So my thought processes were already different from everyone else in the industry.
And what's their thought process versus yours then?
Well, they would follow how the industry naturally worked, and the industry worked from a retail point of view. By people creating wholesale ranges that are designed a year in advance, and you'd buy them and you'd predict how many you'd sell in a season, and it was actually a very risky model for the retailer. What I would do was go to a brand and say, look, I'm thinking about this particular product, or you're making a brilliant product, I want just that, I'm going to buy an entire production run and I want it now. I'm not going to wait.
Yeah.
You know, and I sort of, you know, I changed how it was, how the industry actually worked. And I think actually you know, going back to where we are with Superdry is just that has been forgotten. And we need to move back to that model.
And do you think that's been forgotten because of the change of you not being there anymore and other people not understanding that?
Yeah.
Because it's quite common when founders leave, isn't it?
Yeah.
My friend Neville Wright owned Kiddie Care, sold it for a big lump of money. He said it was the worst day of his life. And Morrison's ran it down. And
yes, of course.
he'd have bought it back for £1 million, but they wouldn't have offered it to him because it would have looked bad.
Yeah.
But I think they ended up selling it for £1 million and they paid 75 for it.
Yeah.
Ainscow Cranes, my business partner Mark knows the family very well. He's bought that back 3 times, sold it, they've run it down because they don't know the industry.
Yeah.
Do you feel emotional about watching the company struggle?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is that why you want to get back in?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm incredibly proud of everything that has been achieved in however many years we've been doing it, and of course you want that to keep going. And look, don't get me wrong, Superdry's future is unbelievable because it just is a brand that can accommodate so many different product areas. So it's a very exciting place it's going to go to next. Just got to get on that journey again. And it's a creative journey. It's a generous journey. It's about being good. It's about being better than anybody else, not being the same as anybody else, and being in tune with your consumer. That's it. It's not difficult as long as you're.
But then simple, not simple, isn't it? Because everything's not difficult when you break it down to its elements. But you know this, and others don't. Otherwise, everyone would be like Superdry.
Yeah. I mean,
you must have a sense of.
I think the reality is because I sort of I'm self-taught. You don't come with the assumption that you have to go in to learn something before you know. I am self-taught. I literally went off, bought my own curation of product, brought it back to Hereford at the time, and made it work. You know, and learned by my mistakes. There were not many other people probably going through that process. They would go, how does the industry work? Well, I'm going to slot into the industry norm. Yeah. Which is a different mentality.
On that note, just a quick one from me. Are you a reader of books, business books, other entrepreneurs?
I love them. I love them. And newspapers. Yeah. So, I mean, when everyone else was... I mean, I'm quite disciplined. So when everyone else was sort of reading sports pages or watching footy... I mean, I didn't watch a football game until I was 30-something. I read every political... You know, I would read probably 4 or 5 newspapers if I had the time.
Yeah.
You know, if I was on an airplane or whatever, I would literally buy every single newspaper, but I wouldn't read the sports bit. I'd read the business bit and the politics, and then you would know when the property market was going to crash because you kind of got a very broad view on the whole thing. So it didn't need to be about my industry; it was just about the world.
Yeah.
And actually, that's that's been very useful, I think, to kind of have a pretty good understanding of what's going on, so that when somebody tries to put your rates bill up, you understand why or what can be done about it, or because you've been reading quietly in the corner, you know. Right. Carry on with the questions.
Yeah.
I'm going to be here all night.
Yes, sir.
Nattering away.
Yeah. Okay, so this from Rick Eckley. How did you finance the growth phases of your business?
Do you know what? I have been self-funding the whole time. I literally, I've been so paranoid that I never spent the money that I made.
Yeah.
So I, buy something, sell it, make a profit, keep it, buy more, and just kept going.
Yeah.
And so self-funded the entire journey.
And then when you've sold businesses, how many have you sold businesses? You sold Soho, you said?
Yeah, Soho. I started a company called Massive Records back in rave times.
Yeah. Sold that?
Sold that.
Yeah. And then you keep most of that money and just...
Yeah, I mean, compared to my core business,
yeah,
they're much smaller. Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, clothing is what I've really done all my life.
I suppose, obviously, if you self-fund, then you're not giving half or 2/3 of the money away. I know a lot of people wouldn't admit this, but I stand by people who I admire, and I'm good friends with Gerald Ratner, who I really admire. And he only ended up having about 3% of his company in the end. Just kept chucking shares away all left, right, and centre to try and grow it. Yeah. And that's obviously something you've not done.
No. So apart from floating, so that was the only time that
and did floating
changed.
Really help the growth?
Yeah. So what floating did was give it the next level of structure to go on the next part of the journey.
At what point in the size?
That was 2010, I think. At that point, we were probably making I think we were just about to make about 25 million profit.
Yeah.
Something like that.
Right.
Yeah.
And so what would the turnover be on that?
In those days, a couple of 100 million.
Yeah. And then did the culture change a lot when you floated?
Squeaking away. Not massively.
We can edit the squeaks.
It was like, I mean, obviously you had to have a board.
Yeah.
So that was new. But I really embrace intellectually new experiences. Mm-hmm. So I'm not frightened by that at all.
Yeah.
And pushing forward is something I really enjoy doing. So yeah, moving into a different world and understanding a different world was actually quite a pleasure. Yeah.
Okay, great. We'll get through a few more of these. So Ali Grant has asked, what's the best route to $500 million net worth?
Stay pure. Like I say, just. I think don't be greedy. I think there are a lot of pitfalls along the way, but if you are diligent, you work hard, you be the best in your industry, you create the best product, and you constantly think about other people, whether it's your supplier, your staff, or your consumer, you're the last person in the room. Because if you look after all them, you'll be looked after anyway. And that's a good way of thinking. Because if you start thinking about yourself, you'll make mistakes. And people get greedy, and they spend more than they earn, or they think they've made a load of money, and they go and buy a flashy car, and then they haven't really made it. So when they need it, they haven't got it.
Yeah.
I always had the backup. So when fashion, obviously it goes through cycles and changes massively. So I was able to rise every time because I always had the financial backup to keep going. So don't spend more than 10% of what you earn.
Yeah. Well,
that's it. For me.
Yeah, and that money compounds as well, doesn't it?
Yeah, no, exactly.
Yeah.
And try not to take on debt. Yeah. Mortgage debt is okay, and property, of course.
Yeah.
That's a different kind of debt.
Yeah, if it's serviced by income.
Correct.
Yeah.
But any other kind of debt is trade debt is quite difficult.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Do you have any mentors or people who have inspired you?
So I do read a lot of books on entrepreneurial autobiographies and so on. And actually, we were talking about Dyson earlier. I think his story is incredible. There are obvious people. I think probably Apple is Steve Jobs is probably the ultimate. And bizarrely, my relationship with James and his relationship with Johnny Ives is, probably quite similar. They go and lock themselves away and go create the world of the future. Not that I'm not in his league patently or his intellect, but I absolutely admire what he achieved. I mean, he really was thinking about the consumer, and if you really understand it, the money for him was a secondary part of the whole process. It really was.
It seems to be this paradox, sorry to just jump in, but if money isn't the main driver, you seem to be more free to make a lot of it. That's a paradox a lot of people struggle with, isn't it?
It is an odd thing, but it's very true. So if you really, he went and just made the best product in its space by a million miles, and was thinking about how exciting it would be for somebody to be able to change their world with that technology. That was the overriding thing for him, and then of course it sold. Patently, you've got to be calculating that you can make money and you're making a margin, and it's all the necessary things in business, but it's not the driving force.
Okay, so we've got a few little quick fires, and then we're done.
Okay, good.
And what time did we order the steak for? I think it was 6:30. So
you've got 3. You've got 3 minutes.
No, I'd have stayed here all night, but right, great. So a couple of these questions aren't very good, I don't think, because I wrote them, but they normally get good answers. So bear with me.
Okay.
Best moment in your career and worst moment in your career.
So best moment in my career, I think James saying he'd come and work with me.
Did you try for ages to get?
Yeah. I had to take him on the coffee journey to get him back into the clothing industry. So actually, just working with James, I think is probably the best moment, and the joys that brings. And then the worst moment was this time last year, realising that the company was about to take the wrong turn. And being ineffectual at that moment to do something about it, and having to wait this long to be able to affect change again. But
hopefully that plays out well.
Well, I hope it will. It will, because if you're determined to achieve something and you're right, that's the important thing. Are you right? If there was any ambiguity about what the direction is or the strategic path it should take, that would be difficult. But there isn't. It's I think if your share prices drop by 80% in 12 months, then you probably it's fairly evident that you're on the wrong path.
Okay, thank you. What's the best advice you've ever been given?
Probably from my dad is like share an experience, do stuff together. So I have equal partnerships. I like equal partnerships. So there's not an overpowering. You do something creatively together. And I think that's probably the best.
Okay, great. And then the worst advice you've ever been given?
The worst advice I've been given?
Or maybe advice that's chucked around that you think that's nonsense, even if it wasn't you.
Me. I literally can't think. I'm sure there's tons, but at this second,
Someone actually said to me once, "Well, I don't listen to bad advice, so I can't remember." So move on.
There you go.
We'll take that.
It's an irrelevance. I mean, I don't. You listen to advice, but I think in business you've got to be fairly confident in yourself, and if you are running a business, I mean, obviously you'd be stupid not to listen to other people. Or understand why somebody's successful or whatever. That would be stupid. But equally, if you are reliant on advice, you're probably not cut out for self-employment in any real growth sense.
Sure. Okay, thank you. This is from Tom Bates. What would you do differently if you started again?
So what would I do differently? The only thing that's been negative has been the last 12 months while the strategy's gone wrong. So trying to avert that earlier to make sure that hadn't have happened.
Yeah. Okay. Great. We've got 3 more.
Okay.
Is there one thing in the world that you feel is really wrong or you feel you'd strongly like to change? And I'll say, other than Brexit.
In the world?
Yeah. Anything in the world you think...
Other than Brexit?
Yeah.
Brexit is so important.
Is there anything you really believe is wrong?
Yes. So I think so I'm a passionate British tax-paying human being, and I think how we run the country is probably not that. In today's world, I think you could think differently. So I don't think we are clever enough in terms of working out we don't look at a problem and say, how do we affect change? What we do is look at what we do and see if we can affect change from. So let me put it into better language. So if you want to, we'll bring Brexit back for 2 seconds. So if we look at the areas that have voted for Brexit, or Trump, they are the disaffected areas of Britain that have been undernourished and underlooked after for a long time. Manufacturing left the UK a long time ago. It now represents 10% of our economy. Now, we're actually in a moment in time historically when manufacturing could come back to, as technology has advanced, and we are less reliant on cheap manual labour. What we are reliant on is skilled labour force in manufacturing, with less people and higher tech. We could affect manufacturing back into the UK and re-energise those areas. But you've got to think of, why would somebody invest? So you kind of go backwards and say, okay, if I bring tax-free manufacturing to the UK, there is a lot of money slushing around this country, not having a place to invest in. So you look how excited people are with crowdfunding or whatever, or you know how much money are slushing around pension funds looking for homes to deliver a decent return. You could actually, with not costing the exchequer anything, because it's such a tiny part of the economy currently, affect that change now.
Yeah.
Do you ever hear that as a language? So they're not looking at the problem and really holistically thinking as a nation, how do we sort it out? And that annoys me.
That must be hard in something where you know you've not got a long-term role. In politics, there's not a lot of long-term roles, is there?
Well,
if you're the founder of a company,
I'll probably be a useless politician, but I do have, I think,
I'm not defending,
sensible ideas, and then you kind of go, how are you going to, sort out the problems of tax and you've got one party that probably wants to penalise wealthy people, and another one that wants to allow people to not pay any tax at all in their various ways, or they're punishing them in kind of irrational ways. And actually what you again do is go, how do I look at the people themselves and say, right, it's very important that everybody contributes to this country, but we can't have them running around moving to Monaco, because that's no good to anybody. We can't have them changing their behaviour. We can't have them stopping buying expensive houses because stamp duty is so ridiculous that actually we're going to change behaviour in a negative way, and our tax take is going to go down just to be seen to be doing the right thing. That's wrong.
Yeah.
So what we've got to do is stop doing things in a kind of in a little bubble, and actually think of the net effect of what we're trying to achieve. The manufacturing one is probably a better example, but you see what I mean.
Yeah.
There's a different way of thinking.
Okay, thank you. Any ambitions you still have? Big burning ambitions?
I would like to think that my business life will continue forever.
Yeah.
I will keep growing.
Have you watched Warren Buffett's Becoming Warren Buffett documentary?
No, I haven't actually.
Yeah, because he's still bumbling along with a lot of energy, doing the same thing at 88 years old.
Yeah, amazing.
Which is great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And not affected.
Yeah.
So I'd love to think that we could deliver growth and deliver excitement. I mean, life is so exciting in business, isn't it? I mean,
it's the best thing ever.
It's the best thing ever. Like I say, define what you're good at 19. I'm like, goodness me. I mean, how lucky am I?
Yeah.
So I feel blessed, but I am, like I say, I'm a passionate Brit as well, and trying to affect change in the UK in a sensible way would equally be a wonderful thing, which is why I'm involved in the whole Brexit, or the Remain part of the argument, because it's so important to the country. I really feel it's the biggest decision that this country is going to make, or has potentially made for the last probably 70 years since the Second World War.
We don't mess it up.
Or with a little, or actually even the Iraq. So that was the last time I shut all my shops to allow my staff to go on the anti-Iraq war march. So it cost me a lot of money.
Yeah, I bet it did. Yeah.
But it's the right thing to do, and sometimes you just got to stand up and do the right thing.
Yeah.
And I've been horrified that other people who agree in private aren't prepared to put their hand up and say, "I'm going to, support the Remain camp." They are terrified of public opinion, and I think that's a real sadness. Actually.
And how do you not be terrified of public opinion?
Well, I don't have social media on my phone.
No. This has just got the questions on this one.
I mean, if you were...
you don't read what they say about you then?
I don't know. I mean, don't. I just, if you think you're doing the right thing and you're going in with an honest heart, I think that's the right thing to do. And, I think more people should do that. It'd be great if they did.
Yeah.
But, I sort of understand with social media that's hard.
Okay. So the final question is, this podcast is called The Disruptive Entrepreneur.
Yeah.
What does the word disruptive mean to you?
Look at a market, understand its weaknesses, and do it differently. And there's a lot of industries. We're going to go back to Brexit for 2 seconds because it's about Europe, and it's about Britain's place in Europe.
Yeah.
So we as a nation are very embracing of new ideas and new concepts and new technologies and a changing world. And we're probably changing at a much faster rate than we've changed since probably the Industrial Revolution or whatever. The reality is that other countries aren't. So within Europe, the historically large economy of, say, Germany would not be prepared to move as quickly as us. So this is our moment in time. So talking about Europe and being part of it, this is our moment in time to rise again in a really positive way, because we embrace change. And we're at the forefront of all these new technologies and the new ways of doing business and new thought processes in a way that probably most of Europe isn't.
Yeah.
And you can tell that through the food. So if you look at food in this country, food has gone through this massive transition in the last 30 years. It's been one of the worst foods, worst restaurant food in Europe, and probably laughed at by the rest of Europe.
French, yeah.
Particularly the French, quite rightly.
Yeah.
We've now risen because we've embraced all these other cultures, and we're not frightened to go, do you know what, you are amazing, your culture is amazing, you're coming in, and we're going to absorb your culture, and we're going to absorb everything that you've got to offer, and we're going to embrace it and incorporate it into our lives. If you go to, say, Germany or France, they haven't moved on for probably 50 years. That shows the mentality of the British nation, and I'm excited by that, and I'm excited by the opportunities for Britain with that. And the fact that we're not actually going to take advantage of it, potentially, is a great sadness. I mean, could be a great sadness, because the economic upturn of actually achieving that potential is huge.
So I know you don't do social media, but what we always have a good, nice plug from the guests at the end. So, you know, what ventures are you doing? I mean, I know Julian doesn't do social media, but do you do social media? And what should we shout out?
We want to talk about gin and juice, which is
Yes, we're here to talk about.
Yeah.
Sorry,
I gave you loads of chances.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, so yeah.
Do you know your next interview they're going to ban you from talking about Brexit?
Yeah, probably. Well, you know, it's of the moment, isn't it? So is that
gin and juice.
Okay? So gin and juice is, you know, it's just a brilliant concept. So you will go and have the best delivered product, and in an environment that you will feel warm. You will feel very, very comfortable, because most of the industry has been taken over by corporates, and as such, they don't put the heart and soul back into the fabric of where you're actually drinking and what the drink should be. So you will feel the difference, and the passion that Steve and Charlotte put into this business, and we can see, and you go, oh, this is just amazing, and this is going to conquer a particular sector of the drinking world. So I'm really excited. I mean, it's brilliant.
Yeah. Okay. And can anyone follow Julian anywhere? No.
At 131.
There you go. So at 131.
At 131 or The Lucky Onion.
Okay.
Just look up The Lucky Onion or at 131 on social. Yeah. That's the whole team about where Gin and Juice is today.
Right.
And that's his hotel chain in the Cotswolds. So.
Okay. Excellent. I just need to say one more thing, because this
is going to be the longest interview ever.
We're done. We are done.
I'm going to be bored. Edit half of it out.
No, we won't edit any of it out. I interviewed David Icke quite a long while back, and like literally, I didn't even open my mouth, and we were 2.5 hours in. So yeah.
I hope I haven't been boring.
Have you watched the Alexander McQueen documentary?
I haven't. No.
That moved me like I don't think any documentary has.
Yeah.
And obviously you're in fashion.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. No, I will watch it. Of course. Yeah.
The guy, I mean, hung himself at 40 years old. It's just.
Yeah.
But what he did was pretty amazing. And
it was amazing.
Yeah, it made me want to live like every day is my last, and make sure I make a massive difference on this planet. I turned 40 2 days after I watched that as well. So. Yeah.
I will watch it.
Great.
Thank you.
That's all right. Thanks a lot.
Pleasure.
I really appreciate it.
Thank you. I hope it was.
No, I really enjoyed it. It was great.